Marcus Williams had been preparing for this moment his entire life. Growing up in a small neighborhood in Atlanta, he had seen things most kids shouldn't have to witness. His mother, Angela, worked 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. His father had passed away when Marcus was only 8 years old. But the event that shaped his future happened when he was 15. One night, his mother collapsed in pain. Marcus remembered the panic in her voice as she held her stomach. They rushed to the hospital, but the emergency room was overcrowded. Hours passed before a doctor finally saw her. When the doctor came out, his expression was serious. "Your mother had a severe gynecological condition," he explained. Marcus didn't fully understand the medical words at the time. But he understood one thing very clearly. His mother almost died because she waited too long to see a specialist. Later that night, while sitting in the hospital hallway, Marcus asked the doctor a question that surprised him. "What kind of doctor treats women's health problems like this?" The doctor replied, "A gynecologist." That single word stayed in Marcus's mind for years. While other kids dreamed of being athletes or rappers, Marcus had a different dream. He wanted to make sure no woman had to suffer the way his mother did. Years later, Marcus graduated at the top of his class in medical school. But his journey wasn't easy. During his residency, he noticed something strange. Whenever he introduced himself as a future gynecologist, people reacted with disbelief. Some laughed, some raised their eyebrows, some simply assumed he was joking. Even one of his professors once asked him, "Marcus, are you sure you're choosing the right specialty?" Marcus simply smiled and replied, "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Now, years later, Marcus was applying for a position at one of the most prestigious hospitals in the city. That's why he was sitting in this interview room. Across the table were 3 senior administrators. Dr. Linda Carter looked down at his resume and raised her eyebrow. "Dr. Williams, your academic record is impressive." She paused. "But I have to ask something." Marcus nodded calmly. "You specialize in gynecology?" "Yes, ma'am." The man sitting beside her leaned back in his chair. "That's unusual." Marcus remained silent. Another interviewer spoke carefully. "Most men in medicine choose different fields. Surgery, cardiology, orthopedics." He cleared his throat. "Why gynecology?" Marcus took a deep breath. Then he told them the story about his mother. The hospital hallway. The fear in his voice. The moment he first heard the word gynecologist. The room slowly grew quiet. No one interrupted him. When Marcus finished speaking, even the skeptical interviewer had softened his expression. "But then Drive." Carter asked one more question. "And how do patients react when they see you?" Marcus chuckled slightly. "At first, they're surprised." He leaned forward. "But after a few minutes, they realize something." "What's that?" she asked. Marcus replied calmly, "That I care about their health more than their expectations." 2 weeks later, Marcus started working at the hospital. On his first day, the waiting room was full of patients. One woman looked confused when the nurse called her name. She whispered to the receptionist, "Wait, my doctor is a man." The receptionist smiled. "Yes, Drive Williams." The woman hesitated, but she eventually walked into the examination room. Inside, Marcus greeted her warmly. "Good morning. I'm Drive Williams." Within minutes, the nervousness disappeared. Marcus listened carefully to her concerns, explained everything clearly, and treated her with respect. When the appointment ended, the woman said something that stuck with him. "You know, I was nervous when I walked in here." Marcus nodded. "I understand." She smiled. "But you're one of the kindest doctors I've ever met." Over the next few months, Marcus became one of the most trusted doctors in the hospital. Word spread quickly among patients. Women appreciated how patiently he explained their conditions, how respectfully he treated them, how seriously he took their concerns. One day, Drive Carter called him into her office. "Marcus," she said. "Yes." She smiled. "You now have the highest patient satisfaction rating in the entire department." Marcus was surprised. "Really?" She nodded. "And I owe you an apology." Marcus looked confused. "For what, doctor?" Carter sighed. "When you first walked into that interview room, we judged you." Marcus smiled gently. "I know. But you proved us wrong." Marcus leaned back in his chair and said something simple. "I didn't come here to prove anyone wrong. Doctor. Carter tilted her head. Then why did you come? Marcus thought for a moment. Then he answered, to prove that compassion matters more than assumptions. Years later, Marcus would become the head of the hospital's women's health department. Young medical students often came to him for advice. One student once asked him, "Did people doubt you because of your choice?" Marcus laughed softly. "Every single day. So how did you keep going?" Marcus looked out the window for a moment. Then he replied, "Because sometimes the world needs people who are brave enough to be different." Ending. That same hospital hallway where Marcus once sat as a scared teenager. Years later, he stood there again. But this time, he wasn't a frightened boy. He was the doctor saving lives. And every time someone questioned his path, he remembered the promise he made to himself years ago. To become the doctor his mother once needed.